welcome. I hope everyone is fresh and recharged after lunch. So my name is Karis, I'm the co-founder of Unsensible, and I'm here with two experts in the field of human sexuality and the technology around it. So they're here today to give us a glimpse into the future of sex tech and the phenomenal opportunities in this space. So Maaike, as mentioned, is the sex tech advisor and investor, and Sara is certified sexologist, which we will explain a little bit later. And her podcast, Better in Bed, is actually very huge. It reached over 1 million people in 88 countries and is named one of the best sex podcasts by The Guardian. So welcome again, Maaike and Sara.
Thanks, Karis. Thank you.
Sex is such a fundamental nature human being thing. So the space is really expansive and very exciting. Now, if you're like me, I love a good origin story. So I know both Sara and Maaike, you didn't start your career in sex tech. So I'm sure the audience is very intrigued and eager to know, how did you make that leap? Like, what motivated you to get involved with sex tech, and how did it all unfold? Maybe Sara, you can start first.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So why I got into sex tech, I always like to tell people I got into sex tech because I wanted to change the world one orgasm at a time.
Woo!
And that was because it started from a very personal place for me. I grew up very conservative and very religious and a very typical Singaporean Chinese upbringing with all the sort of the traditional gender norms and family expectations that comes with. I also had a really terrible sex education, and that caused a lot of shame when I started to become sexually active. So I guess from that place, I started to experience firsthand the impact that the shame had on my health, on my confidence, and on my relationships. So I already saw that there was already a need for a better solution from that personal point of view. And then I was very lucky to study human sexuality when I went to university as a semester, as a sort of a optional module. And that was a very mind-blowing semester for me, because that was the first time I understood that sexuality could be a topic of study, and it could be talked about in a way that wasn't just about pregnancy, STIs, and reproduction. That there was so much more that went into it. So that was a very mind-blowing semester for me. And then after that, along the way, in the sort of the past decade or so that I've spent in sexual wellness, I've sort of dipped in and out in different forms, from being an erotic writer to starting my own business selling sex toys, to being a sex coach, which is probably the most recent iteration, which is the past since 2020. And I think all of that has had many different learning experiences for me. But I would say the underlying theme and my belief and my purpose is still the same. That is, I want to make the world a more sex-positive place, and I want to normalize the conversations we have around sex.
Wow, we have to thank Sara for giving us this opportunity to learn better way to, better way in bed, a better way to enhance our sexual wellness. Maaike, how about you? You were a C-suite executive. What are you doing here?
My journey is slightly different. So I spent last 25 years in C-suite roles in technology and finance. And until 6 months ago, I was actually the CEO of Visa for Hong Kong and Macau. But as I've been going on my corporate journey, I firstly recognized the benefit of change, of tech. So we can really use tech to democratize the well-being of individuals. And having seen the lack of female participation in technology, I've been a strong advocate to ensure that there was a voice of women at the table when we were talking about technology. And through that, I connected with some very impressive women that were already active in this space. And in 2018, I thought, okay, maybe I'm just going to become an entrepreneur. And I will set up a platform where women can go to with all their issues, their sexual, financial, physical, and mental issues. Something like Goop, something like Gwyneth Paltrow did in Asia, did in the US, but do it for Asia. But what I realized was that I'm not really an entrepreneur at heart. I really feel that the strength that I have is that I can use my voice, my corporate credibility, particularly in Asia, to advocate for those that don't have that voice. And I think if you look at the well-being of women or you look at sex, both are two areas that are very under studied, under discussed. Whilst actually, if you take a deep dive, so firstly, women are half of the world's population, and probably sex is one of the few things that, let's say, 99% of the population at one point in time in their life would be part of. So apart from the fact that we should start to normalize the conversations, like Sara mentioned, it's also an amazing business opportunity. But when you work in a marginalized space, like sex or even women's health, it is really important that there are people that advocate for the marginalized. So I decided to quit my job and focus full-time on this space. Funny story is when during COVID, everybody went to Harvard and I went to sex tech school. This was an online a 6-week incubator for sex tech, and I met some amazing people with the most crazy ideas to support and enhance our sexual well-being. But what was really interesting is there were very little people from Asia, actually none. There was one building a solution in Web3, and then there was somebody in Hong Kong that was also developing a product. But I thought, why is that? And then I started to realize that in Asia as a whole, we have so much cultural stigma and taboo on sex in general. And the way we can use sex tech is, to a certain extent, we can use it to anonymize a lot of the interaction that we have. So we take away the shame and the guilt that Sara was talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm so passionate as an advisor and as an investor of particularly homegrown Hong Kong and Asian companies.
So thank you for everyone for joining us today and being so open-minded throughout. And thank you to Maaike and Sara for your invaluable insights.
Well done.